Hi there, welcome back to the Dylan Rounds case. Welcome if you're currently here in the live premiere. Today, I want to talk about an interesting pattern which I have noticed as of recently, and it's referring back to the time where people were obsessing about Dylan Rounds being a certain way, attracted to a certain gender of people, and that was the result to his death at the end of the day and him going missing. That obsession, because it was pushed heavily for a certain length of time. Family members did resist. Candice Cooley did deny it. Justin Rounds, I guess, kept quiet. So it's one of those typical lines, isn't it? One of those typical cycles. But I want to be looking at it today from a different perspective, a different angle, because I've not really seen it mentioned by anyone else. And I can back it up with the odd screenshot just to reinforce the potential, okay? By now, you would have seen the title. Some people probably would have already been triggered by now. I want to make it extremely clear how this video is going to go and what it's about, okay? I'm going to call it a disclaimer. You can call it a reality check, okay? Make sure you are listening before you start complaining. This video is looking at a theory. This video is looking at an event which occurred for a certain length of time. I am making observations, and that is all. An observation is an observation. This is an overt, non-participant observation made by me with regards to the Dylan Rounds case and situations with time involving key named individuals, which entails Bob Farrell, Black Dove, Jim Terry, Kurt Wadsworth. And there is kind of a growing pattern between those kinds of people. Potential patterns, some clearer than others, which could explain as to why the whole gay theory was being pushed towards Dylan Rounds and the outcome of his death. That's what I want to be looking at today. Whether you agree or disagree, you can share your thoughts and responses in the live chat on the right-hand side of the screen, but you can also leave comments down below. If you'd like to catch up on previous videos, feel free to do so when you have time. I still have been covering the Dylan Rounds case as of recent time, so make sure to catch up on it. I have participated and created some live polls, which are available still on my channel page in the community tab section. Make sure to have a look there. Feel free to vote. It'll be interesting to see what people think. And speaking of polls and results, we can look at another one today. Because as of yesterday, some did vote, and it was with regards to where do you think is the most important place in the investigation and search for Dylan Rounds? So we can have a look at the results, see what people have to say, as well as the comments too. We can also catch up on the previous video's comment section, acknowledge anything there too. And that can be done first of all to then allow people to join on in. Then once we've got past that point, we can move on to the gay theory with Dylan Rounds, explaining, how it came about, what it was really about, I guess the motive, where it came from, etc., and the people that kept pushing it and the pattern there. So make sure to stick around from start to finish to fully understand what we're, talking about today. Shout out to the people that continuously watch, including those that can't stand me. Shout out to them too for watching in the background. As for predictions, just to throw it out there, I would like to announce, once again, another prediction came true. Another prediction by me came true. Just to reflect back on previous ones, I predicted correctly the worm effect. I predicted correctly the Noah's Ark effect, the invasion. I correctly predicted the alliances being formed, disbanded. I correctly predicted the dismissal and dissolvement and implosion of certain communities out there. I also predicted the terminations of others and cancer there. I also predicted the Bob Farrell effect. I also predicted the court delays and stuff within the case and what was likely to come. I also predicted some of the news articles and who would respond when and where and how, through what source and what media outlet and by who. Quite a few things are predicted with time. Maybe not everyone will know certain words, but those that know will know. It wasn't the last prediction, it was one that was embedded for some time now. And I said directly to you towards the camera that there is a black widow when it comes to the Dylan Rounds case, some kind of black widow within. They might laugh, they might joke, they might play it off at times, but they know exactly what they're doing. And I said there is currently a black widow within. That came true. I predicted it. Once again. I was right. Once again. Just take in mind, if anyone ever questions how and why do I predict, it took me zero evidence to feel, to sense, to suggest that a person would screw me over in 5 years' time, back in 2016 onwards. And they admitted the truth and acknowledged what I said. And that was with little to zero evidence. From then onwards, I did make more predictions, more internally, and maybe a generalized within. And each time I was getting one thing right after the other. So it strengthens that confidence within, it strengthens that mentality of, oh, maybe you do know more. Maybe you can pick up on stuff before it's happened. So that's just what I've done. And when it comes to the Dylan Rounds case, I applied it there. And because of me predicting stuff, I was able to avoid negative consequences unlike others out there. So that's all I do. And that's what I do heading forwards with whatever I cover. Predictions are necessary. I know there is a key line in this world, never judge a book by its cover. What I would say to that is there are a time, a place where you must judge a book by its cover for the safety of yourself, to protect yourself, to avoid the unnecessary down the line. At times, there's no harm in doing it. Okay? This is what I mean. When it comes to quotes within this world and life which guide you on a path and a journey, it can be a load of shit. Okay? Because it can be countered with some common sense, critical thinking, logical thinking, and some negative quotes as well to set reality back into mind. I mean, as I said, the key line or quote called "Don't hunt what you can't kill" is probably one of the most idiotic lines I've ever heard. Maybe I can do a breakdown analysis of that quote. And, because people like to make it all about themselves, just as a heads up, I've been analysing quotes since 2016, 2015, 2016. Okay, I've created quotes myself. I've just not done that for a while because I've been busy doing other stuff. So I've already got extensive experience back there analysing this and that. I think that's the thing with quite a few people out there. Quite a few people out there won't know I've done these type of videos or I've done that type of material. I've covered this, I've covered that. Participate in other stuff. You're not going to see it because if you're here for true crime and mysteries, then that's all you're going to know with my channel. But I have done a range of different stuff over time, if you do look back. So yeah, I can analyze certain quotes in the future. But right now, it's time to analyze Dylan Rounds and a theory which was growing for some time. Okay. First, let's set the scene with last night's discussion to acknowledge that. And let's take a look at the post regarding the search for Dylan. As you can see on screen, 13 hours ago, my poll was, which is the most important area in the Dylan Rounds search investigation, in your opinion? A total of 50 votes, which is quite a high amount of people to do so in a short space of time. And maybe majority of them are those that watched the video last night, so shout out to them. So the results are in, and take in mind it can change with time, but as of looking at it right now, the majority, well not the majority, more people are voting for Lucin Pond at 34%. 28% the Grain Shed, which I'd expect. The pond and grain shed seem to be the key areas. Grain shed, supposedly, where all went down. Lucerne pond, where things were disposed of. One thing leading to another. I get that. And in the correct direction too. But 14% believe Dylan's farm. Which is interesting because is that 14% from people that feel Dylan Rounds was murdered at his farm before he could even get down to the grain shed? Or is it more so that the phone pings where someone like Brenner went down to the farm later, as we've seen, after 7:43 a.m. Could be one or the other. 10% choosing the wash. Interesting, fair enough. And 14% saying elsewhere. Now, for elsewhere, I did highlight, list below, Feel free to elaborate as to which area exactly. And a couple of people did, so that was helpful. Let's just check what people have had to say. There we go. Go to the newest. Start from the bottom. So, Blue Bonnet saying, I think maybe the dump is a possibility. Now, when she says dump, we're not talking about a toilet. We're talking about where you dump trash, dump waste, the total amount of that. A landfill, I guess that's another word. This is the thing. When it came to looking at dumps, rubbish dumps, tips, landfills, land sites, it was awkward because there's all these different kinds of names and descriptions, and when you type it on Google Earth, it'll come up with different named locations depending on what word you use. And there was a few scattered about. There was some in Wendover. It's like a rubbish dump in Montello, and some in Idaho, right? Certain areas which were pointed out. Bob Farrell at a point was suggesting that Dylan Rounds was disposed of at a rubbish dump, such as in, was it Oakley, Idaho? It was somewhere in Idaho. That's what Bob Farrell was suggesting at one point. Now, when I did bring it up a second time round, Bob Farrell said, I don't remember saying that. That's just a typical cause of memory loss. And before people get the wrong end of the stick of that, memory loss in which it's selective memory loss. Oh, I've suddenly forgotten about that because I made a mistake there. That type of behaviour. We've seen it within other humans in the case, so no surprise there. Now, with Blue Bonnet, I did ask, is it Montello Dump or another place you're exactly referring to? Unfortunately, Blue Bonnet did not respond, but if she wants to clear it up here, feel free. June saying, wherever Brenner took those bags, I can't believe the dump wasn't searched, especially after LE were there watching him with the bags. Right, so June is referring to the spring cleaning June 2nd, 2022, where Brenner supposedly was able to go into the grain shed, even though it should have been treated as a crime scene, but officially it wasn't. So he was able to access it, move the grain truck out, so it already highlights that the grain truck was previously parked in there, so that was successful. Police, sheriff or deputy questioned him, and he just said spring cleaning, and it was welcomed and accepted. And that was it. Brenner bagged stuff up, 6 to 8 bags or so. Well, I think Kenneth Cully worded it as 4 to 8 bags. Put them near to his truck, and then later, or on a different day, I'm not too sure as to when, they were disposed of, and they weren't followed up either. Wasted opportunity, right? So you're saying where Brenner took those bags? What, are you saying that that's the place of interest? Or are you tying it in with Blue Bonnet agreeing that the dump needs to be searched? That's the problem. It's okay saying the dump, but which rubbish dump, landfill are we talking about? I've not seen any in Lucerne. There's one in Montello, a little disposal place. The main one is Wendover, so, We've got Chrissy here saying, good question. I can't pick one. Fair enough. Understandable. Cleo, all above and then some. Right, I don't understand that. I know. Good night. Right, I don't understand. My Pine Woods Life, also known as Granny Tara, saying the mountains of interest. I did ask any specific ones, but didn't respond. Charlotte saying, Dylan will never be found. That deserted area is vast. The equipment used to dig super deep into the ground may have been buried too deep. But that Jim Brenner needs to tell them where his body is. I'm sick that no one beats him into talking. Well, if Brenner was a walking free man, then maybe you'd get some vigilante groups taking it into their own hands. Charlotte also says, Jim Brenner was not healthy enough to bury the boy too far. A digging hoe probably super deep into the ground has to be it. So, I don't know if we've done this before. I can do a poll here. Maybe I can do a poll as well on my channel page as well, just to get more people engaging with it. Do you think Dylan Rounds was buried shallow or deep? Which one do you think? And maybe there's a third option if you want Dylan was never buried. Make sure to vote right now. And for those that don't manage to vote in time, I'll set it up on my community page as well for the future. Okay? So, do I think the mountains is a good option? It's the access, which is the issue. The level of effort that's required to go up into the mountains. I know you can use a vehicle, but still getting out of the vehicle, walking about to then dispose of Dylan requires a bit of effort. Yes, you can get mine shafts in the mountains, which would probably be the key area to dispose of Dylan. Roll him in, throw him down into the mine shaft. But if they've supposedly been searched by the likes of Lance Kelly and Scott Natal, Les Natal, and not found Dylan, then maybe he's not there. I mean, how many more mine shafts in the area need to be checked or double checked by those people? I wonder, because they've not really been searching since in those specific types of locations. So it looks like they may have moved on looking at other possibilities and areas of where Dylan could be. You get what I'm saying? So I'd say mountains, possibility that Dylan won't be there. As for evidence, would that be there? I don't know. I mean, what's most likely to come first? Are you more likely to dispose of evidence further away from where you buried the body, or are you going to bury the body further away and then dispose of the evidence closer to the area of where it all happened? Or are you going to equally dispose of both far away and maybe spread out? I wonder. It's just because when you look at Brenner, how he supposedly disposed of the phone at the pond, right? And that was on the way to somewhere else, which was the barbecue. Did he dispose of anything else along the way? And what did he dispose of before that? And how far back? Does it follow a trail like breadcrumbs? That's what I wonder. I mean, sometimes there's a direction to people's actions. Other times it can be very spread out. When it's spread out, that makes it harder to follow a certain lead or direction. Which one do you think Brenner falls under? Moving on. June says, if I could only remember where those pipes were put in on Dylan's land, perfect area because all that machinery was out already from them working there. So frustrating. Were the water lines put in somewhere? Does anyone know? If anyone can answer June's question, feel free to do so. This is why I read these comments out, because people don't always look back at them. So if I can put them out there in a new video, people are more likely to see it. Mel saying, was the well ever checked? Response-wise, Cleo agreeing. So, supposedly Scott Natal went down to the well, but was not able to explore it because it was either filled in, blocked off, something like that, preventing him from getting in. Now, a couple of people now have said about the well, and whilst that's a good suggestion, at least from my perspective, I'm not able to cover it yet because I don't have the location of it. No one has given coordinates. If anyone does have coordinates or roughly the location of where the well is located, feel free to drop it down below or reach out to me, and maybe I can make a video about it and I'll share with you my thoughts and we can have a closer look at it on the maps. Okay? What else? Just Jen, I think, saying past the grain shed 8 miles or so towards mountains. Okay. Cleo, good question. Right, so Jen, when you say 8 miles or so towards mountains, in which direction? Northeast, southwest? I'm assuming either you're saying north or west. That's where most of the mountains seem to be at. So feel free to explain in which direction you think is most, I don't know, suspicious or odd, intriguing to you. Okay, so we looked at those comments. Let's now look back at the comments of the video last night and see if anything needs to be answered. I'm just going to adjust the comments to the newest, as I normally do. First of all, we got a person called Mr. 28 saying maybe individuals are getting defensive about people searching or getting too involved on the case because they might be getting too close to the truth. That's a fair point, Mr. 28. That's always a possibility. Ty Corbyn, Lance Kelly has said they've been on the receiving end of threats in the past when they were searching about. Maybe they were in a key area. You never know. As for my coverage on the case, I've received a great deal of resistance in many different ways, but I'm still standing, and the people that can't stand me are still watching in the background, because those that may and are focused on learning about the Dylan Rounds case have no choice but to watch, because I am the most consistent creator on here when covering the case. So I guess you could say that I predicted yet another thing once again, and we can, explain that a little bit further shortly. But shout out to Mr. 28, a new viewer from the looks of it, a very good profile picture, at least from what I can see. Is that a gorilla or a monkey looking for a camera? Whatever it is, it's very good. So I think levels of resistance can vary depending how hands-on you are with the case and how close you are to the truth. I mean, I'd know because I've been involved in the Kenny Veach case and I saw it there firsthand. So for it to happen here as well seems to be a bit of a reoccurring pattern and theme, right? But I think some of my viewers, and, only if you want to, for anyone watching right now, and this could be done as a future video. So everybody watching and those in the background, if you'd like to share your stories, feel free to do so in the comment section down below with regards to your own experiences within the Dylan Rounds case. More so how you've been treated in the community and more so externally. Have you ever been attacked? And when I say attacked, I mean attacked, whether it be harassment, whether it be unnecessary resistance, whingy whininess, whatever it might be. If you have gone through that when researching this case or going elsewhere, feel free to leave a comment down below sharing your story, only if you want to. And then, if possible, or if people want it, maybe I can do a separate video looking at those comments. Just spreading awareness, right? To put things into perspective. I did it in the past when it came to documenting the extraction of Salty Pancake viewers that shared their side of the story to how they were treated over there. If you'd like to share your side of the story in other areas and experiences, feel free to list it down below, okay? We've got Java. I think he's called Larry or something, but shout out to Java, that's the tag handle. Good of them to leave their comments and to show up recently. I think they were talking about Kenny Veach as well. When there's, like that space where there's nothing else holding me back with the Dylan Rounds case, when stuff needs to be covered, then I want to try and focus and look back at Kenny Veach, because I do genuinely feel that at times you can look back, you can do a video and it can generate new ideas. So when there's a time and place, I definitely want to do that. So feel free to be on the lookout for that video. But Jarvis says, wouldn't bury a body there. Think pond was a cleanup site. A body in that small pond would have made the entire area reek like death, flies, and it would have just stood out more. I can understand that. I do agree. I do also feel that Dylan Rounds was never dumped in the pond or attempted to be buried in there. Even if Dylan Rounds was tied up and then a rock was put to weight him down in the pond, they would have found him by now, because if people went into that pond searching about for the phone, they would have also found Dylan, likely. So I don't think Dylan was ever buried at the pond. But does anyone think that Dylan Rounds was once buried near to the pond, the surrounding area, and then moved on afterwards? Let me know your thoughts. If that could be done as a poll, possibly, maybe we can do so. My Pinewood saying, I pressed like and got thrown out of the chat. Are you saying that you hit the like button on the video and got thrown out? When you say you got thrown out, what, you mean you were booted off the YouTube app? You were booted out of the video? Did the chat disconnect? You know, feel free to elaborate there. People have gone through it over time. I've gone through it over time. Same old shit, okay? YouTube at fault. June explains the same thing. Yeah. There was actually a phase where constantly my chat kept disconnecting, freezing, and just playing up. Could that have been at the hands of somebody in the background? Most possibly. You never know. What do we have here by Clear? Misty-eyed Raph giving credit. Love how humble you can be, always balancing and recognising other weaknesses and strengths. Always lovely to be there. That's good then. Clear with the array of custom emojis. And they all do stand out very clear on my screen at least. Maybe just the bear one might need some reworking, but the rest, high quality. I'm glad. Okay, what's this one? I'm glad I can watch it in replay. Yes, that's the thing. When it comes to my live premieres, if you're not there live, you can always look back afterwards and catch up on the videos, and the live chat replay for most part of it is normally available as well as closed captions as well if you come from a different country, speak a different language, right? So it's mostly under control there. Yeah. June, my opinion, Dylan is still on his land somewhere. Candice and Justin said the pings went to Dylan's area, burn pile, Brenner's back to Dylan's, Brenner, then pond. I may be wrong, but just the feeling. Right, so I'm just going to explain to you the phone pings and roughly the times of them. Okay, June, so feel free to listen up. This is based on how the story's been told for all this time, besides what the outsiders say. In terms of the general original story and how it's been mapped out, basically, the very first phone ping was at 6:51 a.m. And when I say the very first phone ping, I'm talking about what was publicly talked about by the family. There's a possibility that there was a phone ping before that, but it wasn't directly recorded or noted down when the story was being told. I know some people in the background like to get smart with one another, so I just thought I'd acknowledge that. But in terms of the phone pings I heard of and how it's been mentioned over time, June, 6:51 a.m., 28th of May 2022, the day it all unfolded. What happened at 6:51 a.m., that timestamp, that phone ping? It was around the time Dylan Rounds made a call to his grandmother, Karen Rounds, about what he needed to do, parking grain truck in grain shed, and promising to call back after he got the job done. After 6:51 a.m., it was around 6:58 a.m. shortly afterwards when Dylan supposedly attempted to make a call to Brenner, but Brenner did not answer, likely because he was asleep or half asleep in his trailer. Where did this all go down, supposedly, based off the phone ping? Near to the grain shed gate. Okay? After that, I guess Dylan proceeded onwards. The next phone ping, June, was at 7:03 a.m. near to the grain shed property, likely because Dylan was reversing grain truck in the grain shed. Then, what was the next phone ping? The next phone ping timestamp was at 7:27 a.m. So from 7:03 a.m. to 7:27 a.m., round it up roughly speaking, near to 30 minutes. What happened in that 30 minutes for it to go a little bit silent? Compared to previously, 6:51, then 6:58, then 7:03, then 7:27. Well, that was likely the time period where Dylan was murdered within that 30-minute period by Brenner. The 7:27 a.m. timestamp was the time-lapse video which picked up Brenner in his own trailer with Dylan's phone in Brenner's possession. For Brenner to be in possession of Dylan's phone at that time, 7:27, that must mean before that, that's when Dylan was taken out, between 7:03 to 7:27. Once Brenner got a hold of the phone, it basically depicted him cleaning a gun, washing his hands off blood, a shirt covered in blood, and some DNA which was later found on that shirt which belonged to Dylan. Okay? So that's the order there. And then what happened after? What was the next phone pings timestamp? I mean, the next one, in terms of how the story was told, the next one was directly down at the Dylan's farm, right? But Kenneth Cooley said from 7:27 up to about 7:43 a.m., Dylan's phone remained still at the Grangeshed property. After 7:43 a.m. onwards, the next phone ping then moved down to Dylan's farm, likely in Brenner's possession. Okay, there for about 30 minutes or so. Eventually getting back to the Grangeshed property, because after the farm, the next phone ping was back at Brenner's trailer, Grangeshed property. Okay, and that was after 8 a.m. I think it might have been 8:03 a.m. or something onwards. And then from 8 onwards in the morning, nothing happened. It remained still. Did not ping anywhere else. It was only later on, at about 2:51 a.m., the final phone ping pinged, and that was near Lucin Pond. And that was because the phone was thrown in Lucin Pond, and then that was it. That's the order of how it's been told over time. That's what Kenneth Cooley has said. That's what Justin Rounds has agreed with. And that's what Mob Crew Chris has said as well, and others, right? It's not changed. Let me know. I'm aware people will disagree with it and they'll have something to say about it, but I'm just, at least what we've been told, at least how it's been officially worded, that's the way it's gone. Just exploring, saying, I'm still saying check out the well. So many reasons as to why. I understand that, and I would cover it, and I would spread awareness of that location, but first I need the coordinates of the spot, or roughly speaking, the location, so then I can have a deeper look at it. Because without the coordinates, the location just going to be lost on the maps, I guess. Because you think of a well, you're looking down at it. It's not going to show clearly on the maps, likely. It's going to be like a little dot or a little black hole, right? It's not going to be easy to see. Just like with the mine shaft in the Kenny Beach, hike route, you do need coordinates to be able to pinpoint it out on the maps, for sure. Okay? So, we've acknowledged the comments here, some interesting ones, of course. Now it's time to move on to the main part of this video. The focus on whether Dylan Rounds was gay or not was a deep, intensive, obsessed focus for quite some time in the case. It was heavily pushed. Some viewed it as a theory idea. Others claimed it was 100% true and supposedly backed it up as well with some audio recordings, I believe, and explaining where it originally came from. But all in all, there's some key named characters and individuals, those on YouTube, that did push it and constantly talk about it for quite some time. Whilst I can be called out at times for looking back or repeatedly going over certain stuff to get that consistency, but also to balance it out with other levels of consistency, some of these people were really hammering home a certain aspect within the case, even when the likes of the family, at least Candice Cooley, because the others didn't really step up much, denied that Dylan was gay, right? And you might be wondering, why do we need to go over this all over again? Well, I just want to provide a backstory, just for a bit of context in case you've never heard it before, okay? If you're new to this channel or new to this community in case, just to put it out there, to put it into perspective. And then I can add on with my new observations and patterns I've picked up on over time. Because when I did do an analysis of a certain individual and I saw a certain video within the playlist, it made me think, okay? So just take everything into mind. This is an observation sharing my thoughts on a potential theory, a possibility with regards to a certain theory or fact that they have been pushing, okay? So, at the end of the day, you could ask, Does it really matter if Dylan was gay or not? In general, maybe most people would say, oh, who cares? Just let him get on with it. That's it. It is what it is, whatever. Doesn't concern us too much. But in the mindset of others, the reason why it matters if Dylan was gay or not, because in those people' mindsets, they think that that was the motive as to why Dylan Rounds was killed, right? Now, maybe in other countries, maybe if they're less developed or they're strict with certain laws or religion, they stay true to themselves. They don't back down. They don't break down. They don't, do things to please everyone, which is understandable in certain ways, right? Other countries may pander to everything and everyone because they don't want to be called and labelled stuff. Kind of like the UK and other places, of course. But it is what it is. It's just one of those things. But sometimes when it comes to other countries, which might be more welcoming, you might have inner communities, whether it be based on religion or certain morals in their mindsets where they won't allow certain things, which could be the same gender relationships, being gay, etc., right? And then there might be repercussions as that and consequences if found out. So like when you do get those other countries out there, maybe a bit less developed or whatever you want to call it, more stricter with rules, and people have been found out, like males to be with another male, they're being kicked off a rooftop and executed, right? That happens. When it comes to maybe certain areas in the US and certain areas in the UK and elsewhere, we've got certain families and certain communities within those countries that may not be in full agreement to that stuff. They might feel shame is brought onto their family because of one of their family members who's gay. So to rid that shame, they out that family member and dispose of them in different ways. Disown them, or if it's more extreme, take them out of this world. Murder. Depends on the extremity of it and their views as the community, as the family, right? One of those things. So when you got the Dylan Rounds case and you got the Rounds and Cooley family, how welcoming are they if Dylan was just so happened to be gay? I don't know, personally. They've not really opened up about that. They've not really spoken much about it. But then again, you wouldn't really have to speak about being open or not if you knew that your son wasn't gay to begin with. Now, you can always throw the counterpoint in, right? Family aren't always around with Dylan. The family have not really been down to Dylan's farm often, if not ever, as some have said, like Justin. So because of that, Dylan might have changed along the way, and the people who he's been around and influenced could have changed his perspective and mindset, who knows, and how he feels. And that's, I guess, where it then ties in with external people that are kind of tied in the case, that have shared their side of the story, but you always question how true is it really based off who they are as a character, right? So, who was the first person to bring it up about the gay theory, the possibilities that Dylan was gay? Well, supposedly the ringleader behind that was Jim Terry, that pushed it right at the beginning when he was assigned as the private investigator. But because of his ideas and claims, certain family members did not agree with it, such as Candice Cooley, Justin Rounds. And eventually they fired Jim Terry. But that grudge remained, and it has since. So still references and involvement in the case has taken place. Jim Terry doing his own background checks and research on the case, and also Dylan Rounds, and reaching out to people that once knew or did know of Dylan to try and prove the point that Dylan was gay. I think then steps in Kurt Wadsworth, whether it be mentioned more so on Salty Pancakes interviews in the past, or when Jim Terry had interactions with Kurt Wadsworth, and if it was like some other people in the background that claimed that they had audio recordings or some footage of Dylan in a hot tub with Kurt and some other guys, and it pushed that narrative of Dylan being gay. And if it was said word for word by Kurt Wadsworth in certain interviews, Kurt admitting it, Kurt saying he did like Dylan in a certain way and vice versa, and hanging out together. All these like little snippets of supposed information and supposed evidence which pushed the narrative that Dylan was gay. And even when the stories came out about like when Lance Kelly was giving his side, just pointing it out, saying that Dylan every morning, every day would be parked up outside Saddle Saw Bar and hanging out with Kurt Wadsworth. And other people interpreted that as some kind of Must be a gay agenda going on there. Heavy D and Lance Kelly both agreed that Kurt Wadsworth groomed Dylan. So if Dylan was gay or in a relationship with Kurt Wadsworth, do you think it was natural or do you think it was forced? I want to know your thoughts there. Now, I'm quite aware quite a few people will be saying Dylan's not gay at all. In my opinion, I don't think Dylan was gay either. I just think it's been shoved and shoved and shoved. Now, with time, besides Jim Terry coming out with that theory in the first place, and then Kurt Wadsworth giving his thoughts because he was around Dylan and showing what he felt and pushing and using it as evidence as that gay theory, then it kind of spread down the line, didn't it? And Bob Farrell even mentioned it. Bob Farrell welcomed it. Bob Farrell welcomed people on his show, which then talked about it. So all kind of in agreement with one another in some way or another when this agenda, this theory, this claim, right? And then at a point in time, that's when Black Dove got involved, right? A lot of people know Black Dove and people praise Black Dove. Black Dove's main motive as to why he got involved in the Dylan Rounds case, because he felt an emotional connection to Dylan Rounds, kind of like a gay connection type of thing, because Black Dove was assuming that Dylan was gay from what he heard himself, and because Black Dove has claimed to be gay himself, you know, gays relating to supposedly other gays, knowing what it's like, what one goes through, how one can be treated or isolated or pushed back, the negative outlook and responses other people have on gay people, all that type of typical relating, right? So Black Dove mainly got involved in the Dylan Rounds case because he heard about Dylan supposedly being gay, and Black Dove felt like he could relate to Dylan. And that's when that emotional connection started. And that's when Black Dove was like hanging out with maybe like so Bob Farrell at a point, more so Jim Terry, right? Etc., etc. So I don't know if people have picked up on the pattern yet, but we'll get to that in a second. So I personally don't think Dylan, I don't. I'm going to say it one more time just so people hear. I don't believe Dylan was gay. Was he ever gay? I'm not quite sure about that, but I just don't think at that time Dylan was gay. With Dylan hanging out with other males, if Dylan was hanging out with other males of his own age, maybe that wouldn't be considered as gay, but because Dylan Rounds was hanging out with other males of a much older age, that's seen as a bit creepy and odd. But I guess the one thing you got to understand is if Dylan Rounds is in an environment surrounded by, well, vastness and emptiness, there's not much happening, quite desolate out there. In fact, the nearest locations do have a small population of people, but of an older age. Does Dylan have a choice in a way? I mean, Dylan can go elsewhere, and supposedly the story's been told that he did. He did hang out with people of his own age at times, but other times he was hanging out with older males like Ed Harshbarger in the past, Kurt Wadsworth, and then working with the likes of Don Hatley. All older individuals. When you're around older individuals, yes, you can be influenced positive and negatively. Positively, you might learn more. You might gain more experience if you're working with or working for people of an older age that have done stuff, because they may know more. But the negative is sometimes maybe you can get manipulated or controlled in a certain way. It can get a bit dodgy. You know, when people instantly think, oh, younger male hanging out with an older male, they're not family related, just two strangers meeting up, a little bit dodgy, a little bit this, a little bit of that, and then all the labeling comes afterwards. Sometimes it is true, it is a bit dodgy and creepy. Other times it's just natural, but I guess it's that hard to tell factor, right? That's just how people have gone. So when you got factors like that and stories about Dylan, who he hung out with at times, and then you got Kurt Wadsworth sharing his side of the story, then other people claiming audio which admits this and that, piece it all together, and then you think, oh, well, Dylan must have been gay, and then maybe the family didn't like that. They felt it was shameful or embarrassing, so they needed to get rid of the problem. That's kind of like how it was pushed, and that's why then people were applying it to the family being responsible. Both Cooley and Rounds, or one side or the other, that got involved and had Dylan taken out, and that was it. I do think that part is very far-fetched, to be honest with you, okay? But Some were saying as an alternative that Dylan Rounds, based off his orientation, if you call it that, but maybe locals within the area of Lucin or Montello, because of the way they think, didn't like it either, so then they took Dylan out themselves. But I mean, when I look back, and maybe it's not enough, but when I've looked at, you get the crime reports, 2022 and before that, etc. I didn't really see any crimes against gay people. It was more inappropriate behaviour towards younger individuals of a gender, right? You know what I'm talking about, that type of stuff, and then some burglary here, robbery there, but not really targeted on a specific type of person, right? I said the inappropriate behaviour tended to be targeted of the opposite gender, but as for the murder aspect, that was mixed. Male on male, male on female, female on male. It varied, right? I didn't really see anything mentioned about other gay people being targeted in the area or further afar. I didn't see a pattern established there, because there was a time where I was looking at alternative crime by alternative people to see if there was a pattern of targeted individuals of a certain gender, of a certain age, in a certain location. Was Dylan Rounds caught up in that somehow? That didn't appear to be the case when I did, do a bit of the background research, right? So I think, well, it's interesting. Do I mention it vaguely now and then start getting into it bit by bit? I think I will do, right? The people that have pushed the gay theory the most, such as mainly Jim Terry, but also Kurt Wadsworth, Black Dove getting involved to an extent, and even Bob Farrell as well present. Those type of people that push the gay theory on Dylan the most, is it because it's a self-reflection of themselves that they are gay as well? Well, if we look backwards, Black Dove admitted that he's gay, and that's how he got involved, because he related to Dylan at that time of the theory. Okay. It's been worded that Kurt Wadsworth is gay or was gay. Did Kurt admit it himself directly? Can't remember, but people in the background claimed that they had audio of it, though. Jim Terry. Is he gay? In terms of how he comes across at times, focused and determined on the theory to begin with, and how at times Jim Terry obsesses about the male anatomy of the plums and the bananas down below, whether it be the shape, the size, the colour of it. Other people out there supposedly claiming Jim Terry has been responsible for showing big, dark objects on screen on other people's live streams, and then they've ended up getting in trouble and it's gone wrong from there. Though other people have claimed that that wasn't Jim Terry, it was others coming on to different panels. But, there's been words and lines a bit questionable, a bit dodgy by Jim Terry when it comes to the male anatomy. And because it's somewhat frequent, is there a fixation on that? Other people have pushed it further, saying Jim Terry is outright gay. I'm not going to say that because there isn't enough proof or hard evidence. But in terms of one's behaviour at times and what comes out of their mouth, it does seem a little bit, a certain way. Not on the straight and narrow, more a hard right or a hard left, bit bent. Okay? What about Bob Farrell, then? Well, let me just share with you once again this documented at the time public screenshot of who Bob Farrell was subscribed to. Right, so here we are. I just want to acknowledge that basically what this is, screenshots from when I last documented and did that response video to Bob Farrell, who called me out and questioned my credibility on the case. All I'm doing is simply looking back at this documented footage and applying it to this theory right now, in case you're wondering. So this is a screenshot of Bob Farrell's channel, okay? Videos may have gone up since because he's uploaded more, but, you know, that's his channel. And this was his subscriber feed. The channel section, the channel tab, basically gives you a list of the channels Bob Farrell is subscribed to himself. And there's a few dodgy ones which showed up. There was a couple of patterns when it came to white, male, younger individuals of the correct age, let's make that clear, but there was just a certain pattern of individuals he was subscribed to. And one of which stood out the most was Bob Farrell was, and maybe still is, subscribed to taboo men, which you can see middle of the screen here. Now, what is taboo men? Well, unfortunately, I was on the receiving end of it because I had to click on it to do further research. But basically, this is what it was. That's what taboo men is. This is what Bob Farrell was subscribed to at the time. As you can see, topless males posing, trying to show off their muscle, hairy chest, that type of stuff, as you know. What's the description of it, though? Oh yeah, and watch of crazy. Don't get too distracted, okay? But can we zoom in? There we go, that'll do. So the description of this channel Bob Farrell is subscribed to. Taboo Men is a dedicated YouTube channel catering to the gay community, providing a platform for engaging, informative and inclusive content. This channel aims to celebrate and embrace the diverse experiences, perspectives and lifestyles of gay men, focusing on a wide range of topics including relationships, health, wellness, LGBTQ plus issues, pop culture, self-expression, fashion, and more. And then it just goes on further. The challenges, the stereotypes, breaking down the societal taboos and promote understanding acceptance, encouraging dialogue, empowerment, support within the gay community. Right? That's what Bob Farrell is subscribed to, as you can see here. You'll understand what I mean in a second. The most interesting part there, if you go on Bob Farrell's channel now and you go to the channel section, where's all the other channels gone he was subscribed to? Now, either they were made private or he's unsubscribed to all those other channels out there, right? He is subscribed to Sarcasm TV. I'm sure some of you will remember who they are. It was a channel which made some kind of funny, light-hearted edits of individuals in the true crime community, specifically the Dylan Rounds case, okay? I think Sarcasm TV has changed their username since, or I don't know if there was an alternative account called Sarcasm TV. I don't know if that's a fake one or not, but we've definitely seen a fake Corey account recently as well, so all kinds of messy stuff going on. But the fact is that all those channels Bob Farrell was once subscribed to, as you can see here, Bob Farrell channel section, are no longer visible here because either they've been hidden or he unsubbed from all of those channels. And he was subscribed to quite a few of them. So if he had to manually unsub to each channel, what's going on there? And the only reason why Bob Farrell did this is because I looked at his public subscriber feed at the time. So once that was covered, once people realised it was public, then Bob decided to take action after it. But why? You know, if Bob Farrell has nothing to hide and there is nothing suspicious going on, why make changes after as like a response? Just out of interest, okay? When it came to, on a more light-hearted tone, when it came to Girl Ryan, some of you will know Girl Ryan, kind of within the Dylan Rounds community at a point in time, may have moved on since. I did a response video to her in a light-hearted way. She found it funny and everything, but what she didn't know was her subscriber list, channels she subscribed to, were actually all public. She never knew until I made a video about it, and she thanked me. She thanked me for letting her know in a way. So then she made changes afterwards and made it private. Okay. Is that what Bob Farrell did as well? Maybe, but, well, I mean, Bob Farrell actually thanked me for talking about his subscriber list. So I guess once again, we got positive feedback, 100% positive feedback. Whilst I'm analysing these different channels, subscriptions, people are thanking me along the way. But let me just think of something quick, because I want to capture this in a raw way, okay? I want this to be raw so people understand that my mind can work things out on the spot, right? Let me just make one correction. Apologies about that. When it came to Girl Ryan, it wasn't the subscriber channel list that was public. It was her playlist of videos. Playlist is different to channel subscriber list. A playlist is a playlist of videos you've added, a compilation, a collection, right? Videos belong to many different channels out there, all in one category, which you've added as a singular playlist or made multiple ones of them. The channel subscriber list are the channels you subscribe to out there, and it shows like a list of them. Two things different. So maybe it doesn't quite apply to Bob in this way, because whilst Girl Ryan made her playlist completely private, Bob Farrell has chosen to unsub from the other channels, except Starcasm TV. Interesting. So what does that actually mean? It just seems a little bit suspicious and dodgy, you know, because I revealed that Bob Farrell was subscribed to a gay channel, and then afterwards he unsubscribes from them, from the looks of it, and others. Is it because he's trying to cover his own tracks all of a sudden? Now, people aren't going to like this observation. People aren't going to like this video. But what I've done here is what I've done all the other times, right? And other people like pushing the whole gay theory with Dylan. Well, let's look back at it from the horse's mouth. Is it that the key people in this case and community that push the gay theory on Dylan the most, is it because they're gay themselves? Just a possibility. Could it be gay people or people that come off as gay pushing a gay agenda on a non-gay individual, shoving it down one's throat? I wonder. Obviously, in this world, you can get gay people that do what they do and get on with it, and it's all normal, natural, no problem. But then you get other people, the gay community, that want to shove it and force it down your face to make you accept it, and it's done in an unnatural way. You got naturalness, not making a big fuss about it, and then you got others that make a big fuss about it, shove it down your throat, get really triggered and all of that, and it's kind of toxic, right? Does that apply here, I wonder? Just let me know what you think down below, right? I mean, it has cooled off ever since about Dylan Rounds being gay or not, and whether that warranted why Dylan Rounds was murdered because it brought shame on the family or shame onto the community. Brenner, it seems as if Brenner was the one responsible. Some people did try and throw it into the mix, saying that Kurt Wadsworth wasn't just gay for Dylan, but gay for Brenner as well. And it was like a triangular gay stranglehold or something. And one person got in between it all. And Brenner got jealous of it because of Dylan being the centre and focus and attention of Kurt Wadsworth. So Brenner thought, well, if he takes Dylan out, and then Kurt will then look up to Brenner, and then it'll be all kissy-kissy after that. Obviously, it didn't really happen because Brenner is in Weber County Jail and been locked away, in a sense. Not been convicted, but locked away, not being able to walk in the general public open, right? Kurt Wadsworth, that arrest warrant on him, he's been hiding away. You know, if Kurt Wadsworth, it might sound a bit weird this, but if Kurt Wadsworth was gay for Brenner and liked Brenner, and that's why he defended Brenner as well and shown that denial, if Kurt Wadsworth, I mean, wanted to be with Brenner so much, then you'd think Kurt Wadsworth may commit a crime or had himself in now and try and hope he gets into the same jail, prison or whatever as Brenner, and then they can get all kissy-kissy there. Not happen. Not really happen. Sounds a bit weird and silly, but you know, the original claim made by other people sounds a bit silly as well. I'm just simply looking for a potential pattern, okay? Because at least from what I can remember, I just don't remember straight males pushing it as much as some of these individuals have done. And even if it's not each person that is gay, in terms of the overall, so there's what? You got Jim Terry, you got Kurt Wadsworth, you got Black Dove, you got Bob Farrell. Out of the four of them, who are actually gay? Well, Black Dove claims to be gay. Kurt Wadsworth supposedly is gay or kind of gay. Bob Farrell is subscribed to a gay channel, or was subscribed to a gay channel. There might be something going on in the closet there. And Jim Terry seems to fantasize about the male anatomy and may say stuff which could come off as gay. So there seems to be an overwhelming sense of gayness. Is that a problem? Not really, but if it could explain as to why the theory was being pushed so much onto Dylan, it could show that they've got an agenda in a certain way. Now, some people were highlighting and saying that maybe some of those individuals, such as Black Dove, liked Dylan, and that's why there was an emotional connection there, a gay emotional connection. That some people were labelling, not me, but other people, Bob Farrell, as being a creepy old individual obsessed about a 19-year-old at the time and some gay connection going on there. And then as for Jim Terry, people were just simply saying that Jim Terry was a bit obsessed and a bit touchy-touchy when it came to people on his football team in the locker room. You know, when it gets talked about and there's things shoved about here and there, maybe not with enough evidence, but just talk going about. Rumours, let's call it that. And rumours have come from elsewhere as well, so there's no harm in highlighting these because it has happened over time, right? I just think that there is a gay pattern going on with this gay agenda applied to Dylan. And because Kurt Wadsworth has come out, or it appears if it's come out over time that it seems to push that narrative, then it kind of excites certain people so then they can push it further and strengthen it even more. But at the end of the day, this theory, this idea, this concept, or in their mindset, the fact, has it led to Dylan being found? No. Dylan Rounds being found is the most important part, right? That hasn't happened still. So, I think we'll leave the video there for now. I'm fully aware this video will receive resistance. I'm fully aware that this video is going to be twisted. So what I want to do is untwist myself. Okay? Oh, you like that? I'll do it one more time because I'm a good individual. So, because I've untwisted myself now, I want to predict what could happen. Okay? So you as the viewer can understand what's possibly to come and the backlash it can follow, right? Because of what I've said here, likely Bob Farrell is watching in the background, and so is Indiana and a few others, okay? Or if they catch it up on replay afterwards. What happens, they'll probably gather in their covent afterwards, talk about it, but Bob Farrell will probably do a community post on his page, typing in capital letters, but might try and surprise me typing in lowercase to try and go against my predictions. I'll cover all angles there. Typing in saying, I can't believe Dr. Warlike Raff is saying this and that. It's absolutely ridiculous. I've had enough. I'm going to do a live stream all about it and talk about Raff, etc. And it goes from there. I can imagine people, not just Bob, but others, twisting and turning it like what they like to do, where they when it suits them to play the victim card of suddenly turning it around and saying, why are you attacking gay people? That's not right. That's homophobic. That's what the label will be, labelled falsely onto me, okay? I'm just saying all this because I know what to expect and what can happen because I've seen patterns over time. This is simply an observation video picking up on patterns of certain types of people, how they come by, how they express themselves and some of their background, background to them, and then linking that to those just so happen to be pushing this idea onto Dylan, which may mirror themselves. Okay, that's simply it. Coming up with my own theories. That is all. A theory, an observation. Nothing more, nothing less. I know most people here will understand that, but as for the ones in the background, the whingers, the whiners, the cancer, and those afar, we'll twist it and turn it and make it seem like all of this is coming from me, like with those rumours mentioned, but no. Those little rumours mentioned here and now in this video are from what I've heard over time by others, and I've highlighted them as rumours, and that's it. Okay? So there will be false labelling towards me. The narrative will be twisted and they will play the victim card and then act all innocent, and then brainwashed individuals will fall for it, and then there'll be backlash, and then there'll be whininess, whinginess. It is what it is, but this is related to the Dylan Browns case, and as I said, if there is something related to the Dylan Browns case, it will be covered. Simple as, okay? So I've predicted what will happen. Be on the lookout for it. Be prepared, and we'll see what happens, okay? So that's it for now. Gay agenda pushed by possibly gay individuals, or those that come off as gay. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time. Goodbye. Good night for now.